What's up, y'all? This is Mavic from the Caliber Collective. Today we're breaking down the Gray Zone Warfare developer update. First, let's talk about the roadmap we got a few months ago and how this upcoming update is a big departure from that in a very good way. Very happy to see that MFG heard our collective voices and added a lot more than just a bit of weather. That said, the weather does look absolutely gorgeous. With the AI specifically, they will hear less movement and have lower visibility, just like you will as a PMC. This also spilled the beans a little bit on making the AI more robust in how they perceive the environment via sound and vision. On the topic of AI improvements, the more direct update from the devs is the inclusion of AI having organs. In the current state of the game, AI have no organs and tend to sponge bullets unless you click heads. Another feature coming is live event tasks. So these are going to be tasks that are visible on the map only. You don't get them from the vendors. And they will be visible to all factions. Some are going to be small for solo or small squads to tackle, where others are going to require more PMCs to be able to complete. This is a huge addition and should definitely add to the currently lacking depth of gameplay loops in Gray Zone. Speaking of gameplay loops, outside of the live event tasks, many of the following upgrades are specifically for encouraging PvP engagements. That's really the only loop they're focusing on. I know myself and others in the collective felt that PvP was already pretty good, so I'm not really sure why they mean to focus on this aspect of Gray Zone so heavily. I think realistically it's going to make the game become a little too arcadey, and you'll understand why in a minute. Before we get into the why, let's cover the PID system, or lack thereof currently. So they're going to be adding radios and most importantly armbands. These armbands will only be visible to your faction and not the enemy. This is going to make PID so much easier, and rolling deep it will become more important than ever in Gray Zone with the inclusion of COPs, are also known as combat outposts. These will be places all around the map surrounding the current key points where task missions are typically. These outposts will be guarded by AI, but you can overrun them and capture them, making them a spawn point. But in addition to just being a spawn point after you overrun it, a random cop will spawn a brand new trader that's going to have specific items for you to purchase just from that only trader, and they only spawn randomly at a cop that you overrun. This is a very cool idea, but my concern here that it's going to be abused for taking over a key point and disallow players to progress through tasks. So basically think you get these three things, they get overrun by a squad or a faction, and then they just hold down one of the key cities and you just can't get anything done without first PvPing. This again adds to the concern that I have with this turning more into an arcade shooter than a tactical one. I expect this to play worse than it sounds on paper. We'll see how balanced it is in the end. Speaking of balancing this though, mortars are also coming to GZW. This might help balance the cops, but it's kind of like we don't know till we know. But essentially the mortars, they'll have a few different shell types. Going to have a max range, so you can't just reef an enemy faction fob, and we'll have a 25-second delay from the time that you call it in, and it's going to be quite expensive also at around 10,000 or more, so I don't see mortars being used too egregiously just for that fact. So now let's get into the PvP focused additions that I'm not really looking forward to a whole lot. The first one that I'll talk about here is the conflict zones. Essentially, this is a marker for any PvP engagement on the map, and it tells all PMCs, all factions, where active combat is happening. This is something I don't like. I can't state that enough. It takes away from any immersion of being in a lush environment like Lemang and being able to disappear into the shadows and kind of be stealthy, playing your shots with your suppressed, sniper rifles or whatever weapon system you're using. If this feature plays out like I expect, I really hope the community comes together and just really tells MFG that this isn't what we want. Another feature that I'm not looking forward to is trackers. So essentially this is an item, think of like a Apple AirTag that you buy from a vendor and will mark your body when you die. If your gear gets looted, it will track the person who looted it for a duration of time. They said kind of think like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or until they bring that item to their stash and stash it, or they sell the item at the fob. Where this falls apart to me and why I'm not really looking forward to this feature is it just completely annihilates any gear fear that you have, especially with the cops. You could just respawn really close to where your body is and just get all your stuff back. You can go back in with a pistol or whatever. And it really just takes away from that hardcore tactical shooter that this was meaning to be, and just brings it closer and closer to the arcade style, Call of Duty style shooter. And that's really something that I feel like the collective just does not want to see with Gray Zone. So the final update that they kind of gave us was custom servers. I don't have much to say on this, as it looks like, at least for some time, will only be available for some high tier creators to create servers with custom rules. How we as PMCs can maybe join these type of servers is TBD, but this might end up being super cool, or it could end up being a nothing burger. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Overall, that's the dev update that we got. Has some huge hits and a couple misses, but overall this is looking up to be one of the biggest, or the biggest update Gray Zone Warfare has ever had since the launch, and it's much more than what we were promised on the roadmap. We are looking forward to getting back into Lemang and having a blast with everybody in the collective. If you don't know what the collective is, be sure to check out our Discord in the description below. It's full of FPS chads who are always looking to do some hood rat stuff with the boys. And if you want to stay up to date on current and future upcoming tac shooters, be sure to subscribe to get the latest info. Peace.